Hi friends, if I say the institutions are social, what do you mean by that? When I say institutions are social, it means institutions are established by the society and they are run by the people. It means the society has developed institution with some specific purpose and people are there to run it so that the institution can function in a proper way. The goals of institution are very complex. So therefore it is very difficult for a single individual to execute it. So it's always a group of people who is there to work for the achievement of the goal. We have seen in the process of organizing, which is again a functions of management or a processes of management, that different positions are created and these different positions which are created in the institution or in the organization, they are very specific and this specific position is to be occupied by individual so that individual will work towards goal and each position contribute for the achievement of goal. Now let us see when we are talking about education as an institution. Education as an institution has been developed by the society with a specific goal of development of personality. Now we have institution, that is the schools, colleges, and the education system itself functions at different levels. Now we have different positions here. We have teachers, we have administrative staff, and these positions are meant to perform a specific task. All these people who are working together to achieve the development of the personality of students, ultimately who will be a responsible citizen of the country. Now let us coming to the process of staffing, because when we are talking about the staffing as a process, it is important to place a right person at the right position to perform a right work, and therefore staffing is considered as one of the important functions of management in which we are selecting people for the different positions. Now let us try to understand one more process of management, that is staffing. Staffing is defined as the process which involves the filling up of various positions by appropriate individuals. So it means when we are talking about staffing, we want to fill up the positions but with the suitable candidates. So when we are selecting people, we are taking care whether a particular job is requiring some knowledge, some skills, and that is to be there in a particular person. If that required skill for the task and required knowledge for that particular task is not there with the person, then that person cannot be considered for the suitable for particular job. So when we are talking about staffing, it includes selection, training, and appraisal. So staffing is again a process in which the organization is appointing people for different positions, and these people who are selected, they are placed to perform a specific job. The first step in the staffing is the selection. The first question is how to select people. We have seen that the organizational plan gives us the different types of position which is to be filled in. This plan also gives the idea of the knowledge and the skills which are required for a particular position. After this, we also think about whether we can take people from outside or can we give this work to the other agency to perform. A simple example, nowadays if you see that the cleaning work is usually given outside, or we call it as outsourcing of the work. So initially every school or college used to have some posts of the sweep press. For that they have decided some criteria, that is maybe the eligibility criteria, whatever 4th standard, 5th standard pass. So there was no high educational qualification required because it is a skill based. Nowadays, when we are talking about outsourcing, it means we are giving a contract to a company from where people will come and do the cleaning and then go away. Now this is a strategy which many schools or many colleges they have adopted. On the other hand, if you see the positions of teachers, the position of administrative staff is being advertised. So the advertised is made on the basis of the positions which are available, which are to be filled in. So based on the internal and the external sources, a recruitment policy is decided. So if it is to be given to any agency outside, then it is given to the outside, or otherwise we proceed for the recruitment process. In the process of recruitment, the institution asks for the different departments that what are their requirements. For example, if it is a school who is having 10 division of each class, so it is a big school. Now they may be having their science department. Within science they can have biology department, chemistry department, physics department. If the position of head of biology department gets vacated or it is vacant, then they will have to convey that thing to the management. So via principal it will be conveyed to the management, and accordingly they just don't have to convey that the seats are vacant or the position is vacant, but along with the position they also need to give the criteria, what are their requirements. For example, the educational qualification is one, but nowadays use of ICT in teaching learning becomes very important. Rather it plays very crucial role in teachers profession. So maybe now the department will advertise along with the educational qualification that the desirable qualification can be a teacher must be in a position or the candidate must be in a position to make use of ICT for teaching learning. So this is the additional requirement of the candidate which the institution want. So when we are talking about deciding the criteria, then it is the need also comes in the picture. The need of the organization can change, and accordingly the criteria of recruitment can be changed. Sometimes it happens that in the universities we need people with a specialized course done in a specific field. So that time the advertise indicates the general qualification, but the essential qualification is that the person must have done so and so in a particular subject. So it means it is a specialized field. So this specialization is important when we are keeping the criteria of selection, and it can change according to the changing scenario or the changing situation of the institution in specific and the changing scenario in general. Then selection takes place, that is one more step in the staffing. After the selection, people they are placed, they are oriented, and not only this, later the next step is the promotions. People are placed is one thing, but sometimes some people they are promoted to the next grade. Later on, selected or maybe promoted candidates, they have to undergo the training. So the staffing is the process which starts from deciding the desired criteria or identifying the requirements of the job till the training and development of an individual. It is also known as a manpower planning. Now considering what is manpower planning, we will discuss some of the aspects of it. The manpower planning is defined as the process which includes forecasting, developing, implementing and controlling, by which a firm ensures that it has the right number of people and right kind of people at the right place and at the right time for doing the things for which they are economically most useful. This is given by gesture. The manpower planning is a process wherein any organization first has to decide how many manpower they want, how many people and for what type of job are required in the organization. Once we get that, then we proceed further by selection and later we give them training, and after that the appraisal of an individual continues. Let us come to the characteristics of manpower planning. The first characteristic of manpower planning, it involves all the activities which are associated with the human resource development. Human resource development means it is enhancing the potentiality of human being. It may be enhancing their knowledge, it may be enhancing their skill, it may be learning new skill, or it may be changing their attitude or development of a favorable attitude. So the first character is that the manpower planning is associated with all the activities which are there for human resource development. So basically manpower planning is considering any human being as a resource. They are not considering it as a liability, but human being is the one whose knowledge, whose ideas, whose potentialities, whose skills, whose thinking is being utilized to create knowledge, to impart knowledge, and therefore it is considered as human resource. The second character, it includes the determination of manpower need in terms of kind as well as in terms of number. It means it includes the qualitative and the quantitative analysis of manpower which is needed. The quantity means the number of people any organization needs, and quality means the qualifications, the skills, the knowledge the firm wants. The third character, that it includes the manpower inventory. Now why manpower inventory is necessary is that it reflects the status of present, means how big the organization is, how many people are working and how many more it want. Why it is important is that sometimes some organizations they close down. So in that condition they don't need people of that particular type. They may need people with different type. A simple example to quote, when ICT first introduced or information communication technology has been introduced in the field of education, that time it was the necessity that a teacher, educator who are there, they also should be knowing how to make use of ICT. Now for that it was not possible to create a new post as a ICT teachers, but this work has been done or this work has been assigned to the organization who rather took teacher trainings, and these teachers they are equipped themselves with the ICT. Sometimes it is the scenario or sometimes it is the policy which changes, and along with the policy there has to be some changes needs to be made. In schools nowadays, because the inclusive education is coming in, rather we are bringing inclusive education policy in the field of education. Now this demands a special educator in the school. Till today the special educators were recruited only in special schools, but now with this Right to Education Act, the special educators are also the requirement of our normal school, and therefore this manpower inventory is necessary, because this manpower inventory not only shows what is the status, but it also gives us the gap, or it also gives us the picture of new recruitment or new positions which are to be created or which are created because of the policy decisions. This inventory also talks about or give an idea about the supply of personnel. As earlier we have mentioned that every time you cannot create positions, especially in a government setup, it is very difficult to create positions because it is a process through which they are created. But in private schools also, when a teacher's position is created, they have to follow certain norms, they have to follow some positions. Also, the point to be noted that if we cannot create that much amount of work to be performed by a particular person, then that work can be given to personnel who will just do that job and that's it. Therefore, in schools many times we see that we have drawing teachers who come on the basis of clock hour basis. Why it is required that? Because we cannot afford to pay that much of salary for only one subject. Maybe it is from 5th standard to 10th standard, but it is difficult for the organization to spend that much amount of money, and therefore for certain subject we call, or the organization they call, people who are specialized in that particular subject. The inventory also helps to discover undeveloped talents. Sometimes it is possible that the personnel who are working in the organization, they can have many more skills or their talents are underutilized, and in that condition the organization takes the decision that they can develop them, they can give some training, and by giving that training they can equip their available human resource. By doing so, organization not only save their time and money, but organizations are also saving lot of finance and they are developing one human resource. The example which you probably can find, that when you go in a bank, initially there was one person who would just open a door and close door of banks. Now the same person is also now giving you the information about the different types of forms which are available to fill up. Now what happens here, when the person was only on the door and only was gatekeeping, that time his all potentials were not utilized. So it was a mechanical work what he was doing. When it was identified that the same person can be given a training and then he can speak to people, so therefore his potentialities can be enhanced. So many banks you will find that they have trained their people and now these people are taking care of customers. So we can also say that in the organization setup also, if the teacher is teaching particular subject but she is interested in technology, so her potentiality, her interest can be utilized by the schools or colleges. So therefore this inventory plan also helps us in deciding our some decisions regarding the recruitment of people. Another example we can have is that for the dances, for dance or the music, usually the teachers are appointed in schools. Now if number of students who are opting this dance and music are getting less and less day by day, then that recruiting that particular teacher only for that those subject becomes difficult. Now here the principal or the manager can request teachers to develop her own subject, where whichever subject she has graduated in, and then she can also share some teaching of other subjects along with her music or dance. So this is what we can discover the new talents of an individual who are working in our schools or colleges. The manpower planning helps in, or rather it indicates the gap between the demand and supply. We have mentioned that there are some courses which becomes very popular and some courses which people don't want to take. Now if the demand for the particular courses are more, then we also need to have more teachers for teaching those subjects. And the subjects which are not taken by the students in the universities, we do not require those many teachers to teach the subject. So it is a demand and a supply which is indicated by this manpower inventory. And therefore this manpower inventory which is prepared in the organization helps in the process of recruitment a lot. Now let us move on to what is effective manpower planning. The effective manpower planning not only focuses on human resource but also on working condition and human relationships. Let's try to understand this. When we say manpower planning, we said that the inventory talks about the number of position, it talks about the demand and the supply, but when we are talking about effective manpower planning, we are not only looking at the human resource but we are also looking into the working condition. It means, or in simple term, if your school enrollments get increased, so maybe last year we had 5,000 students, now this year we have 6,000 or 7,000 students. So naturally we say that the number of teachers position should be increased and they should be filled in. But manpower planning also think about whether a proper working conditions are there for additional 10 teachers or they are not. So if we are just increasing number of students and we are also increasing 10 teachers, this will not be a effective manpower planning, because either the students will not be able to get proper place to sit and then you find a picture that on one bench 4, 5, 5 students they are sitting. Now imagine, do you think they can concentrate on learning? No. Similarly, if there is a staff room which is for the 50 teachers and we have additional 10 to 15 teachers, do we have that space to accommodate additional 10 to 15 teachers? What are the sanitary facilities we have? What other infrastructural facilities we are going to provide them? So these things need to be answered. Next within this is that a human relation. We know in the process of organizing, we have decided who will communicate to whom and in what way. So we have decided the hierarchy and we have also decided the mode of communication. Now in the process of staffing also, we not only consider the number of positions but we are also considering the working conditions of the particular organization. Now when we talk about the human relations, we know those who are newly recruited, what will be their position in the organization, who will be guiding them or to whom they have to report to, what is the procedure of reporting. So our manpower planning should be very clear on this ground. Once we are very clear on this ground, then it is very easy for new person to get adjust in the organization. Now this effective planning can be short term planning or your planning can be a long term planning. The short term planning may be associated with sub tasks which can be completed in a stipulated time period. The long term planning can be maybe for the next 5 years plan for the school or 5 years plan for the any institution. Now these short term plans talks about people who we required for performing a very specific task. Now these tasks which are very specific are usually given to teachers who are available in the schools or manpower which we have in our institution. Now for the long term plan, if we are expanding our school, then we have to think about the new job opportunities or new positions we have to create for our school. So how many new teachers we want, that we will have to first identify, and therefore short term plan and the long term plans are different. The short term plans are usually essential when they are task oriented and the work has to be completed within a stipulated time period. On the other hand, the long term plans are more complex and they create more job opportunities, or rather more positions are being created in the organizations. The long term planning includes the 4 steps. The first step is that projecting the organization structure. Second, manpower inventory and its analysis. Third, the recruitment and selection. and fourth, development. The first, that is projecting the organizational structure, it includes the following thing: the present structure of the organization. Now this organization plan gives us the present structure, that is how many people are working in the organization, what are the different positions on which these people are working, what are their jobs or the description of their jobs are given, and the infrastructural facilities which are available in the organization for people. Is the institution has any plan of expansion? If it is yes, then it should be reflected in the organizational plan. What type of expansion or what is the extent of expansion? Is the school going from 500 students to 600 students, or the school wants to have SSC school and now opening new ICSE school, or is it the school wants to shift from SSC to completely ICSE? So these are the questions which are to be addressed in the organizational plan. Now for the expansion, how many people we have right now and how many more people we want when we are expanding our school. If we are going for expansion of our SSC school only, then you may go from 500 to 700. But suppose a management wants to have ICSE's board separate, a new entity to be established, then your planning for manpower will be different, and therefore it is important to answer the questions that how many more manpower we want for the completion of our goal. After this manpower, you also need to answer one question, that what way this new expansion is going to change our present organization structure. Sometimes we may transfer some teachers from SSC to ICSE, but sometimes we may not. So if we want to appoint all 10 teachers newly for ICSE, then your recruitment plan will be entirely different. But if you want to promote your 2 teachers from your SSC board to ICSE board, then you have only 8 positions to be filled in. So therefore, in what way this expansion plan is going to change our present organization structure, this needs to be addressed by the authorities.